welcome to another episode of The Bug Jar. Today we are super excited because we have our friends from the CreateNet Podcast, Nikki and Chase, here with us today. We're going to be talking to them a little bit about podcasting and a couple other things, so we're just going to dive right on in. So I will have my phone. I'm not texting or looking at Instagram. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and your connection with the arts and kind of how long you've been in this world and anything else you want the Bug Jar audience to know about you guys.
Cool. Well, Chase, you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Because Nikki and I, we started the CreateNet Podcast to reach out people that want to, discuss about their story and why they become creatives. And that's basically what we had done together. And but for me, originally, just me by myself, is that what draw me to the arts is it's really, for me, it's the visual arts that I'm really into, and it just happened to be naturally that way because I was born deaf, and I just started drawing when I was like 3, and I just thought it was really cool, so I kept doing that for a while, and I kind of stopped, kind of like right till end of high school, and I was in art class and everything, all that, jazz and stuff, but I just kind of stopped because I didn't think that it was just something that, I was a perfectionist, and I didn't really like the way that I did art, and so I just stopped because I didn't think it was worth my time. And then when I did college, I, went to culinary arts because that's, a little bit inside me, like I want to be an artist, but in food. And then, so I just became a cook and stuff, and I try to put that, artist or artistry element into doing cooking or whatever. And, I did that for 8 years. It didn't really pan out, but there was some events in my life that kind of just got me closer to the arts, and that's when I met my friend Nikki, who we discovered that, when we became friends, we discovered that we both shared our passion for music and arts and things like that.
Yep.
And then she started podcasting, and then I was also being her friend at the time, and and I was starting to kind of come closer to, back to my art, drawing and stuff like that. And so after that, it just took a while for me to like really get back into. Now I do graphic design and art and things like that just for fun right now. And
our podcast.
And the podcast. And I do mostly the visuals for the podcast that we make now.
Yes, and they look great, by the way.
Yes.
Every one of them really does.
Yep. So maybe if you want to do it not just for fun, if anybody out there needs some graphic services, can we promo you?
Do it.
Sure. For right now, I would love to do it, for money. That'd be awesome. But I'm just really wanted to help people and get that experience, so I can even get even better once I start, becoming serious.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess it's my turn now. When I was younger, I wasn't really into sports or anything. I do come from a very musical family. I mean, none of my family are musicians. Well, one of my aunts is a musician, but not many of them are musicians, and so we just all had the love for music, and so that's kind of where my connection to the arts is mostly through music. I mean, I do love the visual arts as well, but music is definitely where my biggest passion lies. And so, in elementary school through college, I did choir for the longest time, and did a lot of theater in high school as well. And actually turns out, kind of sprawled into me working at a theater later in life. So I work in the box office at Triad Stage in downtown Greensboro. So that's where another, passion of mine with the arts comes in. It's, live theater. I'm also a big fan of that. So, and then I started going to local concerts and shows when I was in high school. One of my friends introduced me to a local band called Jonas Season Color. I don't know if y'all
I have no idea why we didn't meet sooner than we did. Like, the more you're talking, I'm like, we were, like, in the same orbit. Like, why did we meet so late in life?
I don't know, but I'm glad we did.
You were saying that y'all are late in life. Surely not. This is not good.
I mean,
back in my day,
I feel like I'm 70, okay? Anyway, so yeah.
I once I started going to see Jonas Season Color, I started to branch out and find more local music. I'm pretty sure that's kind of how that all started. And so I've been going, like I said, been going to local shows ever since. I've seen these guys quite a few times. Actually met them on a different podcast that I did called Greensboro Grooves, which was super fun and should have lasted longer, but
Things happen.
Things happen. Yeah, like the place you had the podcast closed down, so it's just how it is. So I'm really glad when Chase approached me about doing this podcast, because it was a way for me to get back into doing that, because I had a lot of fun interviewing on Greensboro Grooves, because that was a show about musicians and we interviewed them and had them play. But now that we have our podcast, I've kind of gotten back into that, which has been really fun. And I still try and go to as many local shows as I can. Sometimes the theater keeps me busy because we have 5 shows a season, so it's a lot of, and they usually have 3 to 4 week runs, so I'll do a lot of night shifts, but I do try and support people when I can.
It is not easy when you're in this industry in any capacity, I've discovered.
Yeah.
So I got a couple follow-ups that I've been ruminating on as you guys have been talking.
Go fire away.
So, okay, first I'm going to bounce back over to Chase for a second. What, or who rather, are some artists that you draw inspiration from for your work? And I know inspiration's like a cheesy word, but...
Oh, man. The way I do art, actually, is very, very spontaneous. Because I don't like doing art in an expected way. Like, I actually make art based on what I'm inspired by, which is sounds very woo-woo, but like, but I like to make art when I'm inspired. And it strikes me whenever I see something on Instagram, and I'm like, hey, like, I kind of want to put my spin on that, and the way that's like doing, what other people are doing. But for me, I draw inspiration from music, actually, and I actually listen to music while I make art. So it's not really somebody that I also follow. I know I'm contradicting myself, but it's literally a combination of just, liking people's art, and also when I do art, I listen to music, and for some reason it gets me in a state where it just all comes together.
Yeah. He's a big Pink Floyd fan.
Oh
Very nice.
Yeah. So
Pink Floyd.
He listens to a lot of that when he does his stuff.
And Tame Impala, which is the
Tame
poster
Impala.
behind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, like that poster is
that's true.
almost pretty similar to what I make.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what gets my groove going.
Yeah, his visual art is very psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has a Facebook page called Sci Eye Candy. Y'all should go check that out.
It's my other side project.
Yeah.
Besides
They're really cool. He's on Instagram too, but anyway.
And also I'm trying to once my skills get refined, I'm hoping to also work with album art for musicians, like probably not for the CDs, maybe the vinyl records, but it's going to be mainly like their show poster or something.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to work towards too as well. So
that's awesome. All right, and my question for you.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love theaters. I'm obsessed with them. What is your favorite thing about working in a theater?
Oh, I would have to say the people. The people I work with are some of the coolest, weirdest, most fun people. And so, working with them and, with each of the productions that we have at Triad Stage, we usually we do get a lot of the same actors that come in and play different parts, but, sometimes we'll we'll outsource actors from New York, and so getting to meet them kind of, every now and then, because, sometimes in the box office you don't get to interact with everyone in the theater, but, when the actors want their complimentary tickets booked, they have to come to me, so...
the gatekeeper of the comp tickets.
Yes, exactly. So getting to meet the people and interacting with them, I think that's the best part about working at a theater. And discounted tickets, so...
True.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Right?
True. All right. So how did you two become friends and partners in creativity?
We met on OkCupid.
Yeah. So we were originally...
So yeah, you can actually meet friends on OkCupid.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Yeah, it's not just for dating. You can put, looking for friends. But anyway.
Fun fact.
Yeah. So so that's where we met, and we started hanging out then, and we've known each other for, 4 years now? 5? One of those.
4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
About 4 years.
Yeah. So,
So...
we've been doing a lot of, we'll always... go grab a beer and hang out and stuff. And I have taken him to a couple of shows, and back when I did Greensboro Grooves, he came out to a lot of those as well, which was super nice of him.
Very cool.
But yeah, so he was actually the one that approached me with the idea for the podcast in the first place. He was the one that pitched it to me over a beer, and
that's how you get... No, I'm just kidding.
That's how you get things done. You pitch things over a beer. That's what you do.
Stuff happens in this world.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's just how you grow, meet, and make new opportunities for yourself.
Exactly.
So he pitched me the idea. I was 100% on board right away. And we kind of just started talking about, kind of spitballing ideas of what we wanted the podcast to be in that bar. So, since then, obviously, we've refined some things.
Right.
And
yeah, and
created more of a structure, but,
Well, and also, she comes from a communications field.
I do.
And
yep.
And then also, I have...
I'm good with my words sometimes.
Yes. So she helps me on that a lot.
I do have to correct him a lot during our episodes.
So that's why I pitched it to her, is that she has the experience, and she also enjoys, interviewing artists and things like that. And also for me, I just knew that we work well together, and also I just feel like Greensboro has this, and Winston-Salem in North Carolina. I feel like there's gotta be something. I feel like a podcast would bring people together and discover people. I know you can just go ahead and do that on Instagram, but what if we can just have an open discussion about, artists and about where they come from.
Right.
But in a way that's as if you were just having coffee with them.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. That was kind of the thing that we came.
And we kind of wanted to be a middleman of sorts as well. So, we would hopefully get creative people to come on our show, and then other creative people would listen and want to collaborate in some way with the people that we have on or the people that we talk about. That's the net in CreateNet, kind of that networking factor, along with just highlighting people's stories and passions. So.
I wondered about the net.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question answered. Yeah. And I actually have an aside question for you, Nikki. What is your advice for people who are not great interviewers? Because I'm so new to this that I need to glean some knowledge from you about how to interview other people. So can you just coach me through the rest of this video?
Honestly, I'm still very new to it too. Even though I had Greensboro Grooves and I'm doing this now, I still find it hard to come up with follow-up questions. Because I feel you don't want to interrupt anybody.
Right.
So it's that fine line between wanting to ask a follow-up question and then not interrupting the person that you're interviewing.
Right.
And so
I've been struggling with that for the last 20 minutes.
Right. You just did the thing, right?
Yeah, I know.
And it's hard. It's one of those things where it's you have to kind of, you get practice with it obviously, but it's kind of like finding your window to do those kind of follow-up questions and doing your research. Obviously, that's the main thing. You don't want to come in unprepared. Obviously you had questions prepared, so that's the core of any good interviewer is just having the research and being prepared, and just kind of not being so rigid with wanting the conversation to go a certain way. You just kind of have to let it go where it's meant to go. But yeah, I'm still learning things too, so don't worry about it. Y'all are doing fine.
Speaking of follow-up questions.
Yeah, Zach.
Well, I've had like 20 this whole time, but
pick your top one for each.
Yeah.
Well, this one's kind of for both. So I think the format of a podcast kind of hits in some different areas than, say, a video series or doing art, or it kind of like hits us in a different part of our lives. So like when do you guys listen to podcasts, and why did you choose that medium to be the right representation for what you wanted?
Well, I personally like to listen to podcasts when I usually listen before I go to bed or on the treadmill, like when I'm working out. That's usually the most of the time I am listening to a podcast when I'm working out. Mostly because I have a gym in my house and the TV doesn't work, so I can't watch TV. So I haven't gotten that fixed quite yet, so I have my headphones on and I'll listen to podcasts. I've tried listening to music while working out, but I find myself like singing along with everything, and that's not conducive to working out well. So so with the podcast, that kind of helps me just kind of keep going and listening to that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I basically actually listen to podcasts during work, and I drive a lot for work, so I'll be driving, and also it keeps my mind active, and because you can be driving and just, I mean, why waste all that time not listening to something?
Right.
Yep.
And that's the kind of reason why the podcast is so popular, is because now adults, like, we're all like so busy with our lives, and but you still want to like listen to something that you enjoy listening to, and I feel like the podcast medium was really good for us, because if an artist is making art, or someone's at work and they're not able to work, but they can kind of draw inspiration to maybe draw inspiration from our episodes, and maybe like they come across a business partner or someone they want to be friends with, or just insight, and that's what I really listen to podcasts for.
We also just wanted a way for us to like make stuff within and look like shit and be fine, Well, and also with the popularity of podcasts nowadays, it just seems like everyone has one, and I don't know where I heard this from, but I think it's because we're with streaming services and things like that, we just don't really go out and interact anymore with people. And even when you're like at a bar, you're like on your phone or whatever.
Right.
That's
and
true.
so since as humans we need that connection with one another as humans, we the popularity of podcasts has begun in a way that it gives us that human connection without having to actually interact with each other.
There's a conversational aspect to it, just kind of like this, that's really nice, because like I listen to podcasts when I weed eat a lot, or yard, and do anything like yard work, because music kind of I focus so much in on music that when I listen to it, if I can't hear it perfectly because of noise that's going around, I don't like it. I don't like not being able to hear it perfectly. But a conversation, as long as you can understand the words, it doesn't matter if you can hear the exact inflection of the person's voice.
Totally.
So that conversational aspect of it, I think, is really nice, and it's partially for what you're saying too, is that like you get to sort of become friends with the people on there in an indirect way, and like it's like establishing this community thing.
You feel like you're a part of the conversation without having to actually be there.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. All right, so while we're talking about podcasts, what podcast got you into podcasts?
Oh,
That's a good question. The podcast that got me into podcasting is Tim Ferriss. I literally just downloaded Spotify, and then I was like, what? They got podcasts too? And I saw Tim Ferriss. I was like, I'll play this guy. And apparently he's like this really crazy guy that, tells, different, things, what you can do to like learn new different, like he's just a really cool guy that, you know, can bring really cool insights about life and stuff. And I just been listening to him, and I'm like, man, like I'm really learning stuff that I would never learn about.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I wonder what else I can learn about. So he's my first podcast that got me into podcasting.
Very cool. So mine, I believe, because I do spend a lot of my time on YouTube. So I believe one of the first podcasts that I listened to was from a YouTuber who just, you know, because every YouTuber seems to have a podcast now.
Yes.
So, and I do follow a lot of people on YouTube. Unfortunately, that's a big time waster on my part. But anyway, so I believe it was Shane Dawson's podcast that got me into, which he doesn't make anymore, which is sad, but you know, that was kind of my introduction, and so I just started, you know, listening to those episodes, and then once more YouTubers that I follow started making their own podcasts, I listened to theirs. My favorites right now is a podcast called This Might Get Weird, where two girls basically just, you know, talk to each other and just like shoot the shit, and it's hilarious because they're both comedians and they're super funny. And yeah, so I think that was my first introduction to podcasts. And that's when I was on my iPad a lot, so I would just, you know, pull up the podcast app and just start, you know, listening to things.
It's not really tradition because this is only the second one of these, or third interview that we've done, but like second long format, bunch of us just kind of chit-chatting interview.
Cool.
But it's gonna be tradition
Nice.
to draw questions
Ooh, random questions.
out of the baggie. And
Right.
some of these are like serious good questions, and some of them are completely stupid. So,
Hey, we love a stupid question on our podcast.
All right.
I believe we've asked multiple people what's their favorite color, so.
well, there's some weird ones in here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
Sure.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
So reach in and grab one.
Oh, is that one?
Oh, I know what this one is. It's gonna be a good one.
Did you grab?
This
no,
is perfect.
You did grab one.
Perfect, given your culinary background.
Oh no!
What?
Okay. If you had to prepare a 3-course meal, appetizer, salad, main course, and dessert for your favorite celebrity, what would you make? Oh my gosh. I don't know. Probably something Australian because
Well, who's your
Who's your
favorite
celebrity?
okay, he's Australian. It's Kevin Parker. He's the lead singer. Well, he's really the whole band, but Tame Impala.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my, I mean, in my opinion,
Sure.
he's the star. But and he's Australian, so I don't know what he likes. That's
Some shrimp on the
that's
barbie?
horrifying. Huh?
Some shrimp on the barbie?
All right,
That's all that Australians eat.
That's it. I don't
No,
know why
no.
I didn't know anything about Australia.
Well, what would you make him? Come on.
Probably
Don't let me answer your question.
kangaroo feet.
That's the worst thing you could do.
Hey.
There's gotta be some good meat on there.
That's
you
their
know.
national animal. What's wrong with you? Let me see what I get here. Okay. All right. Is that one? Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right. What is your hidden talent?
I don't know this.
Oh no. I don't
ready.
even know if I have a hidden talent.
Oh, come on.
No, because most people know that I can sing. That's one thing, but like, I guess I can turn my foot weird, but I can't really show
Really?
that on camera. So.
Or you have like a
Yeah,
like a double joint thing.
like I can turn both of my feet around and walk, but I mean I can't show that because that's
That's
that'd
a
be
hit.
weird, and I'm sorry.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
3 years, I didn't know she could do that.
Yeah.
4 years.
I mean, I used to be able to do it really well when I was younger, because obviously I was
When
you're a
more
kid.
flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, because you're more flexible as a kid.
Now, can you do
So-
it moonwalking though? That's the
I
question.
can't moonwalk though.
Oh,
I can't
okay.
even
I can't
moonwalk
moonwalk.
I can't
regularly.
either.
So,
Would it,
Nope.
would it necessarily mean that you're walking
so
backwards?
yeah, it would be. It'd be walking backwards and forwards at the same time, technically.
That is amazing.
Nikki can walk backwards and forwards at the same time. In case you missed that, she can walk backwards and forwards at the same time.
It's basically turning my feet around so the heels are pointing this way, and then I can walk forward.
Do you know the sketch, Monty Python sketch, Ministry of Silly Walks? Have you ever seen that?
No, but I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
Watch that sketch because
should.
that's what it puts me in mind of that sketch.
She would be the equivalent of a Jedi Master.
She would. Jedi Master of Silly Walks.
Of silly walking.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right, there's more questions in here. Are you in for a second round?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right,
Let's go
here we
for
go.
it.
I'll go first this time,
All right,
and then
switch it up.
we'll do a little switcheroo. Okay. Here we go. What's this one?
What's your favorite
What
color?
is a little known fact about you?
So it's kind of the same thing.
It's kind of the same thing, but I can go ahead and little known fact. I don't know. I'm pretty much an open book, so I'm trying to think of what a little known fact about me is. I was on TV once.
What?
Yeah.
On TV.
Get out of
I
here.
was on the news when I was 3. They were doing a piece on volunteering, and they were highlighting a group called Horsepower, which is a therapeutic horseback riding center.
That's cool.
And I was one of their first students that they had, and so because of that, I was featured on a news clip. It was me and my mom, and I believe my grandma too. Yes, yeah, I think they interviewed my grandma as well. Yeah.
Very cool.
So there you go. Little known.
Horsepower.
Famous.
Check them out. All
Yeah.
right, last one. Here we go.
All right. Let's get this one. Is that one? Oh.
Did you get more?
cheating. I'm
Did you
cheating.
get more than
Double,
one?
double dip.
How dare you?
Share your favorite show memory.
Yeah.
Favorite show memory?
Like as a TV show, like you're watching TV.
Gigs, like
Like
music.
concerts.
Oh,
Music
favorite
or
concert memory.
theater. Either
Concert.
one.
Yeah.
I
or
would.
theater.
I'm sorry. Hey, Tame Impala. There's a reason why.
I think I'm gonna go have to listen to some after this podcast.
Yes, they're really good. Well,
He hasn't been to many concerts, but I think he's seen Tame Impala the most, and so
Yeah.
that's why.
Yes. Well, Tame Impala just puts on like crazy shows, and they mostly involve lasers, and it's basically. I'm not saying it's like they're better than Pink Floyd because they use lasers too, but the one that I went to in May was like the best. Basically, it changed my opinion on like concerts and things, like how it can be like enjoyed. So, I would. That's something I would say that is my favorite show.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you both for being willing to sit down and be part of the Bug Jar episode, whatever number we're on. I think this is 22.
You
That's
can like
okay.
blur your lips and put like 20.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, episode 22.
Put the episode right in here.
And thanks for letting us come and film in your studio office here.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we appreciated you guys coming on our show, so
Yes,
obviously
thank you so
we
much.
wanted to come and reciprocate and come on yours. So,
We'll just.
Well,
That's the whole point of CreateNet, right? It's
Yeah.
Yes.
Making those connections.
Exactly.
So look, this is
connect and
exactly-
collaborate with each other, guys. It's
Let's
Stop,
fun.
collaborate, and listen.
yes.
Ice is back with a brand new addiction.
Okay, now I think it's time for us to end.
I think so.
Once again, you can always hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you want to know exactly when our videos go up and everything. We put up new content every Wednesday, so check back here then if you're not a notification person, and we will see you again next week.